like an incel meme
I'm
when you aren't one. You're
I'm
acting
not
one.
yet, but I'm becoming so self-aware that I'm terrified of becoming one. Right? Like I started building Gundam, and I have put
Wait,
all
oh yeah, oh
time and
no.
money
Uh-huh.
into this hobby I started 5 months ago, and here we are. Uh, I'm just
How
glad
much
that the
did you
government
hurt
didn't
you?
ask what I was going to use my money for. That would be a really, really not fun thing to see on paper.
And with that, hello everyone. Welcome to
Oh, hey, good. Oh, good. Oh, good.
yeah.
Oh wow.
Welcome to episode 0.5 of our podcast where a bunch of high school friends just meet up and distanced socially. We undergo distanced socialization as we just converse with one another. And that's our podcast name. Welcome to Distance Socialization.
Sounds like someone just said grace. Amen.
Amen. This episode is technically 0.5 because unfortunately one of our core cast members is unable to come to today's podcast recording meeting slash hangout just because he has some other
Things to take care of.
other responsibilities, and that's completely understandable. And so, everyone else here has their own personal lives, as developed or not developed as they might be, but we understand completely. And because of that, we didn't want to start our first episode without him because, as I said before, he is a core cast member.
We don't know you guys. You're just listeners. We don't know you, Jack. Shizzly shy.
I mean, technically, we did do our first episode.
The pilot episode, but who knows
Right,
when
right.
that'll come out about, except when you show them to people.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
only
hey,
for
hey,
family
hey.
slideshows or Christmas parties. Maybe Thanksgiving.
Hey, we get good feedback.
Yeah.
We did. I was surprised. Not
Yeah, we
surprised,
did.
but I was happily, I don't know. Yeah, surprised, honestly.
So this episode will be released though. So
Oh,
thank
right.
you, Cos's friend. Thank you, Cos's friend. And because this episode will be released, Joshua, watch your mouth. And
I'm
let's.
only concerned because I don't talk like this at home. I have my good Christian boy filter so perfectly formed that the
What if your
second I
parents watch
get,
this?
Yeah, what if your parents
that's what
watch
I'm
this,
saying.
and then they
It's
find
hard
out
because
about
I
your
wanna,
like
I
little
just want,
filter?
I just want to be able to talk freely with my friends like I usually do, but I don't want to have to put on my little good boy filter for something that should be my happy place with my buddy.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Then it's just gonna
Understand.
become a dull. I'm just gonna become a dead dull product.
Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce ourselves.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, I'm the one in green. I am the little Katamari prince with the revolver. I am Ben.
Okay. Well, I'm my green light is glowing next, so I'm Josh. That's it. I guess we're doing this week.
I guess I will go next. I'm Kyle. Nice to meet y'all.
And who are those people in your profile picture?
And don't worry about it. We'll talk about it another day.
Okay.
Don't worry
Oh,
about it.
we were giving backstory on profile picture. We can talk about it later.
Okay, and last but not least for today.
Hi guys, I'm Quill, and that's a picture of me as an intern there.
Oh.
Thanks for listening.
Good. And that's where we end. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys.
Yeah. Bye guys.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but that interests me, Kyle. What is that? I can barely see those 5 pretty little girls.
Oh my god! Please don't say it like that.
Sorry.
Otherwise, you're
My
gonna.
bad. But elaborate. What are they? Who are they?
They're just a K-pop group called Red Velvet. They are, my favorite group. So I have them set as my profile.
I respect that.
Mhm.
Are you one of those fabled stans or the hyper fans? that will cancel people?
Hmm?
Do you associate with that section of
I don't
K-pop people?
like. I read up about like the more like
Sure.
outspoken people, but I don't like go and like try and
I don't know,
cancel
that
people.
whole mentality has always baffled me of uh, of just the most extreme example of hive mind.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm no stranger to that. Sometimes I'll watch like a movie review without having seen a movie, and then I'll just be like, "Oh yeah, they're right. This movie sucked," and I've never seen it before, which is the exact same thing as I guess in some ways stands are. Oh, so and so said this. Kill her. Let's burn her at the stake. Oh, they just get so passionate about something someone that they don't even know personally. It's an interesting I don't know, social phenomenon.
Well, I mean, if you're just talking about like cancel culture,
Mhm.
isn't it? I don't know. I think it depends on like everyone's like viewpoint on it, but I think it's for me, I think cancel culture works best if it's like to inform people, like you know how like reviews are,
Okay.
like people are informing people that like this person did this thing wrong
Right. Or
or
don't
something
watch the
like that.
Emoji Movie. It's a bunch of schlock. Don't even
Hmm.
worry about it.
And
So
then
kind of that way, huh?
it's up to then the person to make a decision to either like stop like watching whatever they do or like stop listening to whatever they do.
Right. Right.
I think it's kind of bad that people like shame people for like, oh, you listen
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
so and so.
Or
Uh,
anything, right? Oh,
don't you know he or she did blank?
right, like 17 years ago when the culture was different and people just, that's what they said to be
Mm-hmm.
not to either be cool or that was just a natural um, figure of speech or part of speech that didn't hold as much weight as I guess it should have. But that's how people talked. Like the word gay. Way back in the old Christmas songs, you hear it all the time, but it doesn't mean homosexual. So language does change. Um, not to say that saying openly misogynistic things is okay ever.
But I think people should just like come out and say like
Right.
like yeah, I've grown from like this or something like that, and
Right.
then kind of just let the people decide if they want to keep tuning in to their works or anything like that.
If someone openly apologizes for it, absolutely. I mean, it's again up to you whether you believe them or not. But the fact that they're at least going out of their way to address something like that is, I guess, notable at the very least.
I wanted to ask, what is a stan? Is that an acronym?
No, it's a reference to the old Eminem song "Stan," which is
Hmm.
about a crazed fan that would do it that felt so connected to Eminem that I don't remember if he offed himself or if he was going to do something drastic or whatever, just because he loved Eminem so much that he would do anything just to get a glimpse of him. So that sort of mentality is what, or I guess that's where the term comes from, right? People
I'm
with that
really
sort of rabid fan
I'm surprised
adoration.
you know like the origin of the word. I didn't even know the
Yeah,
origin
I
of the
didn't.
word.
I
Oh, really?
never. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, I
In my
remember because it was
exposure.
like way back in my phase of Eminem, the edgy, grungy.
You had an Eminem face?
I did have an Eminem phase. It was
Didn't
very
everyone?
When?
Mom spaghetti.
honestly. I think I had an
Yeah.
Eminem phase. It was like either in between senior year or somewhere in between, like my first 2 years of college.
What the
Just
heck?
well, because in high school, I was like, if it's not if it's not before the '90s,
Classical.
it's not
Oh,
good music, right? I just everything's about drugs and sex and money. Everything's just so vulgar.
And then you got engaged in that yourself?
Exactly. Well, because my The revelation
Yeah,
happened
if you guys
in a car ride with my dad. He was like, if you're going
oh,
into a music major, shouldn't you be able to find aspects in all music that you enjoy?" And I was like,
mhm,
"Oh, damn, he's right. Why am I such
mhm.
an idiot? Why am I such a snob? I should like music, um, whether
Music as a
it's
whole.
right as an art form, as a form of expression. If someone wants to make a song about drugs and sex, go ahead. That's their right. And honestly, a lot of old songs are about that. It's just a little bit more covered up by pretty words or
Yeah,
euphemisms.
to make it PG.
Right, right. Um, but yeah, so I kind of jumped into it head first, diving into Eminem. I've heard him around. I enjoyed his aggressive vocal style. I think I heard "I'm Not Afraid" way back when it first released because I saw a music video with my cousins on YouTube. Um, but after that, diving into his origin story, watching 8 Mile, which is basically an autobiography in
Mhm.
movie form, which is also good. The end scene, the end rap battles for that, legendary. I go back and watch them like once or twice a year. I get a random crave to see that scene again. It's a really cool underdog story. So, and I guess that's kind of the thing that represented rap in the '90s or
Mm.
maybe
Early
'80s.
2000 maybe, yeah.
Right, right. That whole kind of original, East Coast, West Coast rap era
Oh,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
revolved
yeah.
around coming up from, poverty or prejudice or coming back from something, right? Like I've made it. Um, I've come from this place and now I'm here and I'm going to celebrate that success, but also express what life is like, you know.
Mhm.
So it's in a way, it's a form of what's it called? Uh, just letting people know and sharing experiences,
Yeah, it's like a
making people
biographical
aware.
narrative.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part about now is what I can say is why I like hip hop and rap. But if you asked me like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be like, ugh, goody, icky,
No,
icky.
I just wanna play Alligator Alley on the marimba.
Hey, 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 hey. We don't talk about that, man.
Ba 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 Okay,
No,
sorry.
I was more of a hot cross buns guy. That was my jam.
Mhm. Yeah, so, I guess, like, for all of us, we have our own, despite varying levels of musicianship, we all have our, own little tastes and preferences and experiences, sentimentalities with different types of music for different reasons.
And
Um
What
there's a good question I wanted to ask and open up is I was reading this article for a class of mine where it stated that our windows for exploration in terms of anything from like food to culture to music taste, um,
Mhm.
that window kind of closes around the time we're in our mid 20s, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
Which is
no.
which is right, which is scary because that's kind of where we're coming up. But everything that we do like is kind of set based on what we listened to in like high school or what we did in like the high school era slash other like youth middle school ish
Oh,
to
no.
I want to say college.
Oh,
Um,
no.
that's when
So
things
you're
really start
saying
to
I'm gonna
settle in.
be listening to, like, K-pop for, like, the rest of my life?
You could be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's based on the article. That could be what's
Mm.
happening. But I wanted to ask, like, what things? I guess to think about it. Have you been feeling that, or can you imagine yourself, like Kyle said, can you imagine yourself listening to K-pop when you're like 75, right?
Mm. Well, okay, I guess I could start off with, because like, I grew up listening just, like, whatever my parents listened to, and my dad would always, like, burn CDs and stuff with music that he grew up with. So, like, as of right now, I still have a really strong preference for, like, Korean ballads from the '80s and '90s and even, like, early 2000s that my parents listened to when they were, like, in their early young adulthood. But, like, alongside that, like, I'm also listening to other types of music as well.
Mhm.
Just, for some reason, I guess as a revelation from yesterday, me enjoying alternative rock, is that the
Yeah.
right?
I
It's
mean,
like
there you go. There you
yeah,
go.
so but then also, like, and then after high school, in my early college days, like, I got really into indie, like, both, like, American indie and also Korean indie, and, like, that's, I think, like, with the kind of music that I play just, like, for myself recreationally, like, on the guitar or piano, like, that matches up more with, like, the indie scene as well.
Sure.
So it's like, even though, like, I feel like I have a nice, like, foundation of a broad category of genres, like, I have my taste in music is, I guess, like, nicely expansive and diverse, like,
Mhm.
that sort of makes me afraid of, like, how, like, my taste in music will stay stagnant as
Sure.
I
I
get
mean,
old.
and you'll listen to music for different purposes too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Consoling if you're feeling bad, or if you're feeling happy, or if you just like the
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
But then also, like, for me too, like, I can't necessarily escape, uh, not listening to K-pop forever just because I'm Korean.
Yes. The
It's
songs and
it's
sounds of the motherland.
yeah, it's so ingrained in our culture now in the 21st century just because, like,
Sure.
it's part of our national international identity as well. So,
Yeah,
like,
that's the
we
thing.
can't
It's what
yeah,
defines Korea to some extent. That's
yeah.
interesting.
Semiconductors, cell phones, and K-pop.
And refrigerators.
Refrigerators too, yeah. That's our national identity.
Yeah, telephones, refrigerators, Samsung's got it all.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I think, like, there's, like, that also, like, not like, sort of ethnical, like, cultural, like, aspect to music as
Mhm.
well, as it always has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I kind of listen to like a lot of different like music. I would say it kind of like rotates,
Mhm.
depend like maybe like every week or like every like month or so often. I think like the my overarching like music taste is like more like poppy like music,
Sure.
but then I do like sometimes I go like, oh, this R&B song is just so good, you know? And then I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
listening for like to R&B and all that for for like a month, and then if like last time like as when Eminem like released his like newest album, I was listening to rap for like a couple weeks then.
The one where he shouted out Machine Gun Kelly or something? Is that the
Hmm.
one? Was it Kamikaze? Is that what it called it?
I just know the title track for that one was like Godzilla with uh
Right, or something.
Is that the Venom album, or it's
This
not called
is
Venom, but it's when Eminem was producing for the Venom soundtrack.
oh, did he do the Venom soundtrack?
What?
Yeah,
Huh?
Whoa,
he did
The
hmm.
my
some
heck?
songs on
bad.
it.
My bad.
I'm learning
Uh,
so much today.
oh
Well, the
yeah, but the
album is
last.
called like Music to be Murdered by.
Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that one. Oh, that
Uh,
released this year. I didn't even notice. Some fan
Yee.
I am. Yeah, I'm definitely not a stan, that's for sure.
Hopefully not.
But
Right,
then,
right.
Big
like
Eminem speeds.
but, like, I also, like, listen to, like, different, like, countries, like, music as well, like,
Country road.
my last, like my last
That's
music,
actual country.
like, binge was, like, a lot of, like,
Really race
Japanese
virus.
a lot of Japanese music.
Japanese country?
Ooh,
Like a
nice.
shamisen
Japanese
or something?
Yeah,
Like
that's just
dong dong.
down, dude.
Oh my
There is
yeah.
a
You mean
really,
Enka?
really
Enka?
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really cool band that utilizes a lot of old styles of singing and old instruments, but they utilize them in a very modern rock kind of way. So if it's like Naruto soundtrack, the band, which is really cool because they also do cover songs. They've covered Vocaloid songs, and it's all with these like yeah shamisen, koto, taiko drums, bamboo flute with electric guitar and all these other modern instruments. It's a really really cool mesh. I love them. They're called wagaki bando,
Hmm.
which is basically pleasurable sound band. Kind of like ongaku, which is also pleasurable sound, but wagaki is I think
Well, you
no,
said
it's
like gaku kanji, right?
no Wagaki is I think it's Eastern sound band.
Is it wa like the heiwa
Yes.
no wa?
Yes, I think so.
So like Japanese instrument
Hmm.
Band.
Right, which makes
band?
sense
Yeah.
because that's literally what they are.
Mhm.
But I love them.
How
Sorry.
about you, Quill? Like, what kind of music do you listen to? I actually don't know.
I don't listen to music very
Sure.
often. I'm sure it would help me learn Japanese a lot more
Well,
if I
I
did,
guess
but
in your case, what things from Japan have you picked up culturally, or have you picked up any habits being in Japan during your college um, experience?
well, I think in terms of music, one of the things that's been really interesting is discovering the underground hip hop scene in Japan.
Okay.
And there's rap battles and there's artists that have the same themes as American hip hop.
Hmm.
Uh, and yet in Japan there's a very small drug culture and a very small um, gun culture. It's almost
Right.
non-existent, and yet these rappers express things that are so similar to the American norms. Um, I also enjoy the use of English in
Mhm.
Japanese rap.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's
it's used
so
both artfully and comically, which I
Mhm.
can
yes.
respect. Like a perfect
So
blend of funny, but also, yeah, hey, that kind of works.
it's true. It it captures a kind of style that I think a lot of rappers go for, and it's not only every other word, but a lot of artists that are from Okinawa or that are bilingual, they'll have
Mm,
verses in English and verses in Japanese,
Mhm, mhm,
and they're they're loved in Japan just the same. It's almost another level of the art form is to be able to weave English completely into their
mhm,
work.
mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
So that's I think that's the main thing for me with Japanese music. I'm also into some 80s pop,
oh
which
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
slightly
Oh
embarrassing, but
yes.
great
No,
for
no,
a
no, nothing to
karaoke.
No,
be
not
ashamed
embarrassing at
about.
all. I was into that way,
That's the
way long
jam.
ago.
The
I would
jam.
play just like I just search in Spotify 80s playlist and I just play whatever the top result was all the time in my car.
Mm.
Yeah, great stuff. Hiromi Iwasaki, just love her, and
Is that the jazz pianist lady?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because there's another really, really good jazz pianist named just Hiromi. I don't know if she uses her last name as the part of the brand, but different Hiromi, I guess.
I guess all Hiromis make good music.
Oh, yeah, I see Iwasaki. No different, but looks like. Um, oh, this is interesting. She did music for the Japanese Beauty and the Beast. This Hiromi Iwasaki lady. Good for
Really?
her. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nice.
I thought your comment about like how like English is like woven into like Japanese like rap and like I guess probably like other like music genres as well in Japan, but I also like find that in like other like countries who
Hmm,
don't primarily speak like English, they also like we try to weave in like maybe like a phrase or like they try and use like an English word in their song. But
sure, you'll
then
hear it all the
I
time in K-pop and stuff too, right?
yeah, but then I always think like how come like English artists like don't do like the reverse? Like why I hardly hear like
You'll hear it a lot in like Mexican rap, but that's just because it's they grow up bilingual, I guess.
mhm,
If an artist grows up bilingual, usually, yeah, you might see more of that, but you don't see a lot of people going out of their way to learn another language, whereas in like especially Asian countries and European countries, they are taught English as another like a math class, right? It's required.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
So
think
that's kind of where that their knowledge of a second language comes from is
mhm,
it's
mhm,
forced pretty much.
yeah. Like, the reason why or, like, it's not, like, a reason, but, like, a sort of, like, a byproduct of or I guess the reason is that why there like, in almost nearly, like, every other country's, like, music, there is at least one song that has, like, some incorporation of English into, like, one artist's song or another, whereas in the US, you barely see that. It's because, it's just the ubiquity of, English just internationally. Like,
Hmm,
any country, France, if you have like a French artist that has English in their music, well, French is a lot of French people understand some English, whereas not a lot of people in America understand French. And like that
Hmm.
right.
that applies like everywhere else in the world too, in Japan, in Korea, in Malaysia,
Hmm.
in Sudan. It's like there's more people that understand English in those respective countries, and there might be people understanding the languages, foreign languages in the United States, and just the United States being such an international cultural powerhouse too,
Hmm.
in terms of media, especially in music. There's just like no reason to supply, like other than to like be different in some way,
Right.
like
Hmm.
uh the British artists, the ones that made the Flamingo song, "Quiero Quiero Bonito."
Cara Cara Bonito, I
Right,
love
but
her.
the thing with that is that, like, the singer herself is, half Japanese, half British,
Hmm.
and so
So she
that's why,
has
like
some kind of cultural root
yeah,
or
so that's
connection.
why that's why, like, the song has Japanese and English in it.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ben's
Like
right.
the only
It's
song
all
I
about
like that. Oh,
accessibility.
What was that?
Rock, paper,
Uh,
scissors.
Quill, you go.
Yay!
I think I
Distance
jumped in.
socialization, baby. This is what we're here for.
so, so what Ben said was accessibility is that
Oh,
English
thank
is
you.
the most accessible language
Hmm.
Wow.
in the
Yeah,
world.
thanks for, simplifying my 5-minute ramble into 2 words.
And so it using English in music serves both artists and producers because
Mm,
Mhm,
you can not only reach a, a wider audience, but you can appeal to audiences that don't necessarily have any connection to the music. So
mhm.
K-pop is so popular around the world, perhaps because those few English words make it
yeah,
accessible to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, people in France, for example.
Mhm,
And the unique style of K-pop, of course, makes it um, makes it Korean, but those English words just help open it up a little and
Sure.
mhm.
um,
Hmm.
give it a
Give it
more
some
Make it
sense of
international
familiarity.
audience.
right, and I
Yeah.
guess that's why we
Yeah.
don't have to use any other language because we already have that part of English is already extremely marketable as it is, and it already reaches every part of the world because that's just how it is. We're just I don't know, like the big brother of certain things, for better or for worse, right? We are looked up to in every regard of art, from cinema to music, right? Everyone's just kind of not stealing, but taking inspiration from.
Yeah. There's undeniable, like, significant impact in all
Right.
mediums of media that came from the US starting in the 20th century with the
Right.
rise of Hollywood and,
Oh yeah.
um,
Especially once the world expanded, like the internet
globalization.
became yeah, globalization. There it is. That's a word I haven't heard since high school. Nice memory.
Welcome to history.
I know. This feels like a giant fishbowl, honestly. This just feels like
Mhm.
a partially you have to participate, so you get participation credits, so you have to say something, but also it's like, oh, fishbowl, fun class discussions. And they were fun. They were like not debatey, but they were just open intellectual conversations, or at least attempts to be one with high school children. Those are always really weird. The concept of a fishbowl Like there's this inner bubble, and then everyone else watches them like zoo animals. Like
and it
like I
takes
get that
notes.
there's no better way to do it, right? But it's just so weird. Because you can't just send half the class out to do diddly squat or who knows what, right? You have to have everyone in the classroom at the same time. So yeah, let's just have one half of the group stare and take notes on the conversation these other people are having.
One thing to consider is like what skills the the teachings are trying to like instill onto the students.
Sure.
Like one thing that hit me when I was like doing my education minor was that like, you're not necessarily doing math to learn, algebra to learn,
Mhm.
that every polygon has 360 degrees
Right.
and its inner angles
Pythagorean's
down to like a
theorem
point.
and all of
It's
those
like
things.
you're learning math because it helps work out like the problem solving component of your brain so you could problem solve in other things outside of math.
Okay, I
Like
see.
those kind like that's like the reason why like mathematics is a integral part of one's education is like not because of calculus. It's because right
Right,
it helps your brain practice like problem solving, finding like solutions to
right.
things
It's
that might
knowing what
arise
process
in
to
everyday
use
life.
when,
Mhm.
right? Like you using how to divide and how to go about multiplication and using all these different, um, I guess, ways and different paths, and knowing that there are options for you to solve any problem. I guess that's the philosophy behind. That's interesting.
Yeah, it
Like,
works out your brain so that it performs better in real life applications. And
yeah, yeah,
so
you
like,
might be able to get a Chad brain.
a big brain. And so I
A
guess
big
like with
brain.
that, like the Socratic seminars slash fishbowl conversations, like it allows people to like speak in front of an audience without the
Mhm.
pressure of being like a solo speaker, because right, everyone else is listening in into the speaking group as a whole.
Right,
It also allows the people outside too. It trains them to be able to listen to their peers and
right,
draw from them because like for the entire time before that, right, like if you're learning something you're usually learning it from an older person, adult, your teacher, your parents. And so like in high school, especially in like a volatile age of like change in your life and in your
right. And
brain
you're
and your
constantly subconsciously observing,
yeah.
social cues and
Mhm.
other things. So I guess that's another
I think yeah,
factor of
like, it
that.
could probably help students practice that and also like with especially like in the peer-to-peer interactions and
Right.
like as you said, the
Unless you just
absorption of knowledge
really
and
cannot
information.
read the room.
Do you think uh like schools should like have more like public speaking like classes or things like that?
Like
Should focus
opportunities?
uh
Like actual
yeah,
classes themselves, like a semester-long class.
like
I,
maybe a
for a whole class
class.
that would be fine because you'll have to take one for a GE in college anyways.
Yeah,
But I
that's
kind
but
of wish I had that earlier,
also
because
consider students that aren't going to college once they graduate high
right,
school.
right, and I think having the confidence to be able to present something effectively to a large group of people, um, is not only beneficial to that specific thing, like presenting ideas. It's also a good. Uh, it just helps build a good mental fortitude or a good mental, I guess, state of mind, right? That's resilient to self-esteem or other things that a lot of college kids go through, right? Um, Going through that class and just like, okay, everyone's here to talk. It's like going to a public bath in Japan, right? Oh, everyone's naked. I could be naked. It's fine. You don't feel weird when you go to an onsen, right, Kyle? For the first time when you went in, were you like, maybe for
Well,
like a little bit,
I mean,
but
like the pre-thought was like, well, this is a little strange. And
right,
then, we just like created like an inside joke to like thin out like the weirdness of it.
sure. But
And then,
you
but
got
then, it's
past it,
just
right?
like,
There was a point where it was like, oh, this isn't so weird anymore.
I mean, it's like you're just not gonna stare at it. You
Right,
just
right.
look at the person's face and
And
then,
that's the kind of thing about the same thing with public speaking. Not everyone's going to be staring at your crotch. They're just going to focus in on what you're saying.
hmm
And if you're able to say it in a way that keeps them engaged and gets your point across. I think not only will it build self confidence in you, but you'll just be a more naturally respected or looked up to person, right?
I
I
think
mean,
like the biggest struggle in like public speaking I still have is like I think I do pretty well. I kind of blank out of
sure.
everything that happens afterwards after I give like the presentation. But some things like I do still remember is like sometimes my legs just shake. Like they like especially if I have like a podium to stand behind, then
uh-huh.
my legs are shaking. But if I don't, I it's like more under control somehow.
Really? Maybe
Yeah.
it's because you're supporting your weight with your arms on the podium. Your legs have more freedom to jiggle, but if your legs are supporting all your weight, maybe that keeps them still a little better. Who knows? That's something that never goes away. As a performance major who has to go on stage and perform music all the time, you'll never not get stage fright. I think it's just when it hits you, will start coming closer and closer to the time you actually have to go. Right? Like before, like freshman year, whenever I'd have a concert, I'd be like a half hour before, I'd be like super stressed out, super anxious, like, oh God, I hope I don't mess up this part. I'm practicing, cramming right before the performance. But now it's like, okay. And then the second I step on stage is when it's like, oh shoot, I'm not practicing rehearsal anymore. I'm just, this is the performance, one and done sort of thing. The more you do something, the more comfortable you are. Oh, I've done this before. It's not scary. Um, so having a class early on and getting that idea in kids' heads, I think, would be really beneficial for their development. Right? Like things won't be so bad. These new experiences won't so bad. I've done things before. Just having that confidence throughout their younger days, I think, would be really, really cool.
Josh, you have a really good point there because I think a lot of children in our time have an invisible audience that they've learned to serve with
Hmm.
social media and online classes.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're constantly self-editing and trying to portray a version
Right.
of
You're
yourself to
hyper
everyone else.
aware of everything
Yeah,
you do. That sucks.
and it can really make a person anxious to the point where public speaking seems like an impossible exposure of the
Right.
self.
And not
And
only that, they'll just be like never comfortable with who they are and never
Mhm.
get to fully develop and settle in themselves and be comfortable with themselves.
exactly. And the confidence building that comes with public speaking can be applied to any social situation, which I think is far more valuable than learning how to give a presentation, for
Right.
example.
Amen. Um,
Yeah.
so that's one way you could go about it, or you could take the cop out way and try some cannabis.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Kidding. I mean, that's what I've
Whoa.
heard. I've seen a lot of people that do take a little bit before a performance because it's like, oh, I gotta get the nerves down. I gotta relax because you sound better when you are physically relaxed. But I don't know how much that would affect your actual playing because you're high, right? But I don't know. I haven't run into anyone that's really completely just ate it because they've done a performance high. Only if you're really dumb about it, sure, but I don't know. That's an interesting, application of getting rid of anxiety.
We're not promoting doing
Yeah, right, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Absolutely be
disclaimer, guys.
responsible, and only if it is legal within your area of residence and you are of legal age to purchase said products. I will not condone it, but I
We're
am also
not
not your
endorsing
mother.
the usage
Yes.
of cannabis products, however,
Nor do
it
I
does have
claim
its
to know what
uses.
those experiences are like, in case anyone
Wait, you can't be like
exists.
trying to tempt them and
No,
saying,
I'm not trying to tell. I'm just covering my ass in case. I mean,
Kyle,
but
dude, like,
in the
you're
act
not
of
supposed to
doing
bring that
so,
up,
I
Kyle, dude.
yeah,
We're
well,
trying to save Josh's butt, and you just ruined
yeah,
it,
come
dude.
on. I just
No one
added the
nunchi,
frying pan
dude.
into the fire. what they say.
Well, Josh, I would say that at a certain point, whatever substance a person consumes to calm their nerves will become a crutch, and
Yes, and that's
just like
when addiction
alcoholism,
happens. Right.
it'll spiral out of control until you get to the point where you can't get out of bed without a dose.
Right. Right. And you just have a insatiable craving that makes you, get fired, and then you get divorced, and then your wife
Whoa,
takes
whoa,
all your
whoa,
money.
whoa,
And
whoa,
Mm.
whoa, whoa, wait, whoa, wait, whoa, 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 whoa.
sorry. Kind
That's a little too extreme, man. Are you
of
okay?
didn't see my therapist this week. Sorry, she's out of town.
Oh man, times
Oof.
are rough.
Come back, Barbara.
Oh,
Is that her real? Is that fake name?
Yes, God. Whose name is Barbara
I don't
nowadays?
know.
Josh,
All the
Josh,
Barbaras.
there's like
Oh,
thousands of Barbaras in the U.S.,
no,
dude.
all Barbaras died in 1993. Okay.
What? I
What?
happen to
Wait,
know a
what?
prominent professional volleyball player who is named Barbara. So
No. Change your name. Change your name.
There's a whole city
Names by
named
birth.
after Barbara in
Santa
California.
Barbara?
All right,
Santa
all right.
Barbara, dude. That's
I
Santa's
guess
wife.
Barbara
Santa Barbara.
Boxer is also still alive. That's true.
Who?
Barbara Boxer, the Senate lady,
Who?
or is it Congress lady? She was a California senator. Wasn't she?
Congresswoman?
I think so. One of those. It's been a while since I had one of those social studies classes. I don't know what the titles are anymore.
It's just hard to
Elfer?
follow
I don't
in
know. What do we
politics.
call senators?
Senator.
Representative? Those?
I think
Yeah.
senator is non-gendered, right?
Yeah, Senate. I thought the representatives would just be called Congress person.
Congressperson.
Because
Sounds pretty
there's a
official. I
Senate
like
and then the
that.
House of Representatives. That
Wooga
makes up the
wooga.
legislative
You
branch of government.
congressperson?
What?
I think it's still congressman, congresswoman.
Woman, yeah. I'm just saying Congressperson as just like a gender neutral, like they them. Just so I could say one word instead of saying two words. And then
What do you guys think about the movement for non-gendered work titles?
What were they proposed again? What were they saying?
Well, I think there's been a lot of buzz online about
Like going from
people that don't want,
firefighter or going from fireman to firefighter instead?
yeah,
That
policeman,
kind of stuff.
police officer, and I don't know about postman, but postal worker or
post
something like
officer.
that.
Right, right.
Post
Oh,
Post
Post officer. We
I
have
like
a
that. I
military
like that.
ranking as part of the Department of Homeland
Well,
Security.
yeah, they already work in a post office. Why not just call them post officers? Right. Oh, I guess that's gendered already because post officers
What?
what?
could
I
What?
think
be interpreted.
you're
Josh,
just
what?
Well, you gotta have your rebuttals, right?
Huh?
The left will
I
probably
I
think
think
that
you're just taking it like a little
Oh,
too
maybe
extreme,
I'm
but
thinking
what?
too far ahead. Maybe I'm
You
maybe I'm
you
thinking
lost
too
me.
much about it.
Yeah.
but on like a little side topic from it's pretty related to like what Quill proposed, but like Ben, Sean, and we discussed like different words.
Hmm,
So like blacklist, like whitelist.
I see.
How
And
are
like have like
you?
the racial subliminal connotations towards
Sure.
them.
Right.
the dark side.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
And then like in I guess if you're like an EE major, you would know like master slave for like devices, how you have like a main device
Oh,
and
oh,
like
jeez.
its peripheral like units are referred to as slaves.
Yeah, I did know
Just
that.
to clarify, what does EE stand for? What are the acronyms for that?
Electrical engineering.
Thank you. Okay,
But
just in case
if
for
you're
the
also in like computer architecture and all that stuff, you
Oh,
would
and there's
know
also male
like
female cables, which is literally
one sticks out, one goes
go
in.
in. Yeah, exactly.
mhm.
The birds and the bee.
But I don't know, we were discussing this and then I thought it would be too hard to do it from like a corporate like perspective
Mhm.
if I thought it would be more manageable to do it in like the educational, like starting from like the
Right.
college
Kids' books or anything like, "What do you
from
wanna
like
be for Halloween?"
from
You
like
put
the
it on those.
colleges or like to new like manuals, if you eventually like just phase the usage out, it will stop becoming like y- as well known. But like for now in like the industry, I'm sure if you go up to like a senior like employee and go like, oh yeah, the main and what the
But
secondaries
oh, yeah,
aren't
yeah.
communicating to each other, and they'll be like, you mean the master and the slave? And then it'll be hard to implement it there. But according to Sean, they are trying to, but it's already a little hard because they're people who have so much experience with
Sure.
such terminology.
I mean, the same argument is made with, why don't we just change to the metric system, right? Like, it would be a logistical nightmare to have to change every sign and every label in the nation. So that's one of those things we definitely will never be able to do overnight. So we could do a similar thing like what you said, implemented earlier on or in classes. I mean, because we already use it for science and everything. That's kind of universal. But I don't know. That's an interesting thing, is changing a nation.
but then yeah,
How
you
to
would
do
just
that?
need to make like for some of them like better like words for it, like
Right, right.
blacklist, whitelist. What are you gonna call it? Good list, bad list?
Yeah,
That just
I
sounds a
mean,
little like
yeah.
kiddie, but I guess maybe if everyone is saying good list, bad list,
I'm sure there's better words for it, but that would probably be the general premise of labeling those. I don't know.
I,
Okay,
I
going
will
back.
say that
Oh,
even though some of these terms might not be politically correct, I think the metaphors that they illustrate are very helpful.
mhm,
So if, for example, with Kyle's electrical engineering example, the master and the slave, it's easy to visualize that relationship between the two components.
sure.
And um, blacklist, whitelist, like you have a list of people that are in the dark that you never talk to, you never
I see.
interact with. They're in the dark. So it, I think there's merit in retaining some of these words that are
Sure.
not obviously offensive.
Right, like
mhm.
knowing the etymology and where terms come from. If they are based on, such things, racial um, things, but if they're not, then they're probably okay, I'd say. But people do tend to jump onto that sort of stuff pretty quickly. Like, oh,
Mhm.
this has a color on it. It has to be about race. No, the Twinkie is yellow. It's literally yellow. um, right? Or if the like the black market, it's not because well, it could be interpreted as, the black market where slaves were sold into slavery, but the black market can also be interpreted as the market that opened up in Japan after the fire bombings, um, where people had to sell the basic needs in these burnt out shopping areas, burnt black, which is why they called them the black market. At least that's what I read in the museum when I went over last year. You'd have to fact check me on that one, but there's something along those lines. Is at least where the word black market comes from. Also, the word ketchup is not English; it's Chinese. Other
hats up.
odd trivia.
Hats up.
Yes, exactly. One more for you. One more for you. I heard from my grandpa. I haven't checked him on it yet, but he was a doctor before he retired, so he's still technically a doctor. Anyways, rust does not come. Or sorry, tetanus does not come from rust inherently. Tetanus comes from the bacteria found on farms, but it was just so strongly correlated to rusty nails in the barn that people thought it came from rust for years. Um,
Oh,
but let me double check him on that.
I thought tetanus was like caused by the bacteria that lives in the dirt that is also found on rust.
Yeah, I thought it was
Sure.
like rust
It's
related,
bacteria in the
but
dirt. Because I
Yes,
remember
bacterial
reading.
infection. That's it's just going through the symptoms. Um, Tetanus from rusted birds. So yes, it's bacterial. The rust itself does not cause the tetanus.
Because then you
So
can also
that's
find tetanus bacteria in just normal dirt,
right,
everyday dirt.
right, and that's another thing that people don't know about, or that's another thing that needs to be taught to kids. The rust itself will not kill you; it's the bacteria. I mean, you probably shouldn't touch that rusty stuff, anyways. Probably not great for you.
but I mean, like most people
Pointy
are
things
teaching
bad.
their kids, to stay clean.
I mean, I'd hope so, but the last time I had hope in humanity, we got a giant dum dum clown in the White House. So I don't have very strong faith in my nation anymore. I can't trust that everyone washes their hands.
Strong faith in the nation or strong faith in humanity as a whole?
Yeah, both.
Ah, okay.
Both are dwindling quite exponentially.
I
But
think to address what Cole brought up too, like at least like some of those terms were already existing. It's just like they also had like other contemporaries to be used with them, like firefighter, fireman, firewoman. It's
mhm,
like because then I grew up just using firefighter normally, like without like any of the gender or political
sure.
connotations behind it. I just use it just because like I thought like firefighter was a more like accurate representation of like what they did rather than just like fireman. Because like, oh, what are you then? Just like the flaming torch? Like, what are you?
You're fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
you're
like what?
fired, man.
Fired man. Yeah. It's like, are you a person that's like specializing in arson, or are you
Right.
someone that like specializes in not like the complete opposite?
That is an interesting and quite punny subject.
Yeah.
I
But
do
then
enjoy
like
that.
I can see also like policeman, policewoman being used usefully, but then like I also just like use police officer
Yeah, that's just
back
one word
when
easier.
I was trying to be respectful to the police.
Oh,
Uh, um,
Ooh.
wait, what happened, Ben? You had a little run in with the law.
not me myself, just because I live
Oh,
in
good,
like
good.
the life of privilege as a non-threatening, measly, small East Asian man, right?
That's oddly
Hmm.
specific. Has someone
I'm
said
the
that
I'm
to
the
you before?
last I'm the last thing that a white police officer would, you know, sus- be suspicious or wary of.
Yeah, yeah. You
Right.
think
But
so?
then like, just knowing the experiences of other people. But then yeah, I think it's just like I guess Kyle said too, like some school or like some ways of training or like teaching are trying to change things, especially for the younger generation. And it's like it's just gonna take a really long time and a lot of persistence if we are to change the terminology of different fields, of different specializations and expertise. Um, and just like culturally as a whole too. Like language is always changing, just as humans are always changing.
Mhm.
And a lot of things are affecting each other. How society affects language and the usage of words, and how the usage of words is also affecting society itself. I think just like how um people like considered sort of just like slang and like other usage of like English that isn't normally ours, like particularly found in like the more urban communities of like black communities in
Mhm.
like urban settings, et cetera, is like, you know, what once people look down upon as like being, quote unquote ghetto, not to make light of the word ghetto now
Right,
either.
right,
Just like what was quote unquote ghetto and like not seen as like proper formal, respectful English is now being seen as, like their own dialect that these people made as their own as they underwent adversity in
right.
their communities, and just like how, they're placed in those circumstances and what they made out of it, including their version of English as well. And like now more and more people are accepting that, and like their usage, their I guess you could say dialect too, is now
Mhm.
being more legitimized and respected.
Hmm.
It's just not in
Hmm.
our time, unfortunately, but maybe if the world still exists in 100 years, we're gonna see a lot of change because in this information era, a lot of
Oh yeah,
change can happen really quickly.
like a virus
Uh,
spreading through a computer. What do
things
you
are
think?
going viral. But
Yeah.
oh no,
God, it's a weekend. I feel like I just got out of lecture or something. My brain
sorry, dude. That's
working too. No, no, no. No. I enjoy having these
oh,
these thought provoking conversations. Absolutely.
you guys are just my test subjects for my pedagogical training.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to get that teaching drive out.
Thanks.
I go.
It's
I
been
gotta
building
teach
up
so
for so
bad.
long.
Oh, I gotta teach somebody something.
Hey, do you know?
No, you gotta
Did
make
you
use of
know?
that. You make use of that degree, man. I respect that. I
I'm
respect
trying.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all any of us can do right now.
Yeah, I'm
Try.
trying to.
Ugh, God.
Unemployed gang,
Hey,
Ooh,
this was good. This was good. Well, hopefully not for long for Kyle, at least.
yeah.
But Quill,
hopefully.
what are you looking into now that you're
I'll
graduating?
be I'll be spending 10 months at a Japanese language institute in
Hell
Japan
yeah!
studying
Uh,
Japanese full time.
God,
Oh
I'm so
dang, dude.
jealous. Ugh.
So I'm gonna come out with business Japanese and
Oh no, you're gonna have to learn
maybe
Sonkeigo and all those other formality speakings.
I'm
Ugh.
so excited.
Good for
when
you,
does
Sound
man.
that
so
start?
polite and educated. It
You're gonna
starts
be so
tomorrow,
freaking peta
actually.
peta,
Oh
dude. You're
wow.
gonna be so
Yeah.
freaking shab shab
School on a Sunday though?
shaberu.
It's a Monday.
It's
Wait, no,
yeah.
it's what?
I
Kyle,
live
Today's
in the
Oh
future,
Saturday.
Kyle.
yeah,
shit!
go live in the future in Japan, dude.
You forget you're in the
Oh, you're
future.
16 hours ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, 16 hours.
That's right. That's right.
I forgot you're giving us information from the future right now.
Oh, so is it like 3 a.m. where you are? Or 3 p.m.? 3 p.m.
Yeah, 3 p.m.
I see.
So I think the real achievement will be if I can finally watch anime without subtitles. But
Oh, that's
don't know,
hard.
maybe that'll take another 10 years of study.
It's something that I have to do is try to start listening to just the raw ones because I'm running into more phrases that I can just recognize, but I cheat because I read it and I was like, oh, I could have known that. I could have recognized that easily. But I'm quicker at reading English than I am at hearing
Mhm,
Japanese.
mhm.
So the challenge that I have to give to myself is trying to listen without subtitles and seeing what I can come out with based on both visual context clues and what I can recognize.
It's really a process, and
Yeah. But Japanese is
for
so much
for
fun to
hours you
speak.
just watch the same episode of anime, just trying to get every phrase down, and it's painful and it sucks, but in the next episode you recognize all the
Right.
phrases you put your blood, sweat, and ear tears into.
Well, but that's the other problem, right? Is that some anime are written with natural dialogue and some are written with a very only like a written style of dialogue, right? Like how we have theatrical dialogue and casual dialogue, right? People say things in a musical or play different than they would say them in real life, just because it's more effective in that medium. But
Well
certain
then,
anime, it's like not a 50-50, but it's a gamble of whether you're learning very casual, real applicable Japanese, or if you're just learning like I don't know, some like quasi textbook style.
well, Josh, maybe you need to find some like Japanese dramas that I hear like a lot of like any like business like related like show.
There's a good
If you
one. There's a
start learning like
Midnight
from that,
Diner is a good one. It's on Netflix. I also watch variety shows. Gaki no Tsukai is my favorite. I love them so much. Japanese humor is just the funniest thing on the planet. So not just because it's weird, but I don't know, it just clicks for me. Oh, you laugh, you get smacked in the butt, and then every time you laugh, it's more painful and it's funny. Like old slapstick. You don't get that nowadays.
You like
But,
physical humor
yeah,
compared to
and just
like
watching these 65-year-old men just get slapped
Oh
from the
no,
rear.
dude.
It's just the funniest thing on the planet. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. And the way that they say it's all improv, but it feels like just so perfect. The line delivery, the stuff they joke about, or the little things that they nitpick at. Um, Somehow, just finding a banana in a drawer became like the funniest thing that I've ever seen. But I don't know. I can't explain it with words. I also have to kind of pee, so that's why
well, I guess
talking
maybe we can start
sporadically.
ending this episode. We have talked for quite a while.
Yeah.
Maybe we can give either like film or like music recommendation for people since I
That's for the
guess this
Patreon, man. That's for the.
I guess this
Maybe in a
episode was
year.
sort of based around that. It was started off with like
Kind of,
the
yeah.
arts.
The arts and then the language as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Language
that's
arts.
Mhm.
oh, 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 yeah.
Haha.
Oh yeah.
I think
Oh, I get it. I got it. I got it.
yeah. Kyle took my job.
Oh,
He
what?
made a
Making
pun.
puns? Oh,
Dude, yeah. Dang. I feel so lost now. I feel like I lost my identity.
it's all right. I didn't get
Um
it for like the first 5 seconds after you said it. So
So,
that's where
Ben,
I
why don't
am
we
right
start with
now.
you?
what are we doing? Sorry.
We're just like recommending like either a
Recommending music?
show or like music to like
Music?
listen to. Either
Yeah,
or, like
to like the three people that might stumble upon this podcast.
yes.
Yeah, or
I
the four
mentioned
people that we force it upon.
that too. I mentioned how I got into supposedly I got into alt rock, alternative rock,
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that was spurred by a song, a beat track from my one of my favorite K-pop girl groups' most recent album, Dreamcatcher, and in their album Boca, which means mouth in Espanol, uh, their B side, Break the Wall, which is sort of harkens back to Dreamcatcher's original roots when they first debuted in 2017, and it just gives off a very, as people said, like sort of like Evanescence, Breaking Benjamin like vibes of like alternative rock, sort of like that kind of vein. So that's a song that I've been listening to a lot. Break the Wall by
It was very
Dreamcatcher.
good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Good pick. Good pick.
Thank you.
How about you, Josh?
Um, I have a artist and a movie. I just recently watched Swiss Army Man, which came out, I want to say, either last year or the year before. But
What
it
a
has
name.
Daniel Radcliffe and some
Ooh.
other guy. But it's a really funny, um, surreal comedy where a man is stranded on the island. He's about to hang himself, and then a body washes up on the shore. And over the course of the movie, that body starts to provide. Like he's in the forest without any water, and then all of a sudden, water just starts coming out of the Swiss Army Man. Um, or he starts passing gas so much
Huh?
that he becomes a jet or like some kind of jet ski sort of thing. It was the funniest thing. It was like a super touching moment, and then you just have Daniel Radcliffe ripping ass like uncontrollably in the background. The whole scene is so
Oh
funny.
no, I gotta watch this now, dude.
It's glorious. It's
Very
gorgeous. The
I'll tell you what.
soundtrack is amazing, um, and the whole movie is just a fun time. And then musically, an artist slash content creator that I've been following for a long time, Matt Watson from Super Mega, which is a
Mm.
Let's Play channel. But he's branched out and made his own EP. His
Oh,
EP just released
ooh,
yesterday,
Ah.
September 4th, and it's very
nice.
good. It's called "Ouch!" exclamation point by
Okay,
Matt Watson. Uh,
okay.
very good.
How do you spell exclamation point?
Uh,
Mm.
Expialifragilistic supercalifragilistic. That's the word. I couldn't think of the word. I had to think of like the last half before the other. I'm
So it's
tired.
the explanation.
Yep,
Uh,
it's exclamation point.
sorry.
No, it's literally just. This is a dumb bit. I hate this. It's literally just an exclamation point on your keyboard. Shift 1.
Okay.
But it's
How
Thank
good.
you.
about
It's
you,
like
Quill?
lo-fi, not kind of. It's kind
Lo-fi,
of
okay.
ish.
Lo-fi
Lo-fi-ish.
hip hop.
Yes.
Luffy, Miliki.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
So
How
I
about you?
have
Ah.
a film recommendation.
Oh, goody
Oh,
goody.
film.
So it's a 2001 Japanese film called All About Lily Shushu.
Heard
All
it
About
before.
Lily Shushu, and that's CHOU for shoe.
Huh. Okay.
It's a Japanese film about bullying in the high school and middle school settings. And the best part of the film, I think, is the soundtrack. It features Debussy, and the featured song is Arabesque.
Oh,
Oh.
And there's also Claire de Lune, and there's another song, I think it's Girl with the Flaxen Hair or something.
All the
okay.
best Debussy.
Yeah,
Cloud
so
Debussy.
Oh yes, I love Debussy.
Debussy.
yeah, and it really shows a side of Japan that's not often viewed by the rest of the world.
Sure, everyone just sees fun anime slice of life, but nobody really. I actually wrote my iSearch paper back in middle school about bullying in Japan and how bad it is. So
Uh, hmm.
I mean, you can totally just get excommunicated for being born. It's like anyone that they see as a target can be and will be. Not like they're all out to bully people, but it's such a higher potential because it's such a
Mm.
homogeneous kind of place.
It's
Very interesting.
true. Certainly, the hierarchical culture makes for leaders that can exploit their peers. So, highly recommend All About Lily Shushu.
Mm. Okay.
Very good.
And last but not least, Kyle, do you have any recommendations?
Um, yeah, I have two recommendations. So for music, it will be another K-pop recommendation. It will be ITZY's Not Shy, which released maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Fairly
Eh,
recent song.
Fairly recent, yeah. But I just find that like ITZY as like a group is very like innovative, very like not of like the norm like K-pop like girl group. So
Mhm.
they're probably my like second favorite group
Well, what's your
besides
first?
Besides
Okay.
Red Velvet. Um,
Good, good. You
uh,
passed the test.
What?
and then
True
my
fan, true fan.
second recommendation is actually a podcast.
Oh,
Podcast.
Yes, it's a
bold of
podcast.
you to promote them on our own podcast.
When we're probably much smaller.
Hey, but
Yeah, I
I don't know.
appreciate a little brown nosing.
I
Go for
like
it. Go for it. Wow.
it's called the Tableau podcast. Under like the Dive Studio. I just think like him as a person is like extremely funny. I think the podcast is on like hiatus right now. Uh he's stopping for a little while, but it gives you a chance to go listen to all the episodes. He talks about stuff like Marvel movies. Since he is also a rapper within like the Korean industry, he talks about like
Oh, that rapper Tavo. Okay, okay. I was like,
yeah.
Tavo. Okay.
So he talks about like his own like uh, experiences within like the industry and just like a bunch of like just random like topics like from like I know some of the beginning ones were like zombie apocalypse and all that. It's just a very like random podcast, like kind of what we kind of set out to be.
I don't know.
Mm.
Compared to a lot of other podcasts I listen to, we're pretty formatted, or at least we
What?
we stick
What?
to at least one semi topic pretty good. A lot of other
Okay.
podcasts I listen to are very I don't know. It's more bit central. You know, going off of a certain bit, like either making up a story or just riffing off of each other, almost like a live comedy show. I guess you
Mm.
could
Okay.
say at a very
And
basic.
with that, we'll just start our closing scenes.
Yeah.
This
Yay!
is when I'll
Thanks
start
for
playing the outro music.
listening. Yeah, exactly.
Do-do-do-do.
Okay. Outro piece.
Like you're saying, I almost forgot.
Just come back afterwards. It doesn't have, you don't have to do it. Hope you got a blast. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And that makes a successful end
Yeah.
to episode 0.5. Oh yeah.